All right. Pastor Hope, what's
Hey.
going on?
Hey.
Welcome. Episode number 2, Runner's Gonna Run. Pastor Hope, this is a legendary podcast. Come on, man.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
I'm great.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Good, good. I'm so glad that you're here. This
For
is
sure.
this is gonna be an interesting episode.
Yes.
But we're glad you're here. We're in Runner's Gonna Run, episode number 2. We are in a 4-week series here at Journey Church talking about Runner's Gonna Run. We were all created to run, and we're learning that we have to be intentional about our run. But before we get into any kind of like spiritual talk, let's talk about why you're qualified to speak on a Runner's Gonna Run episode.
I don't know about that, but
So what got you into running? How long have you been running? Just tell us a little bit about you.
so I have been running since the 7th grade, actually. So I tried out for track and field in the 7th grade with my sisters, and wasn't really good at any other sports. Anything that requires like hand-eye coordination was not for me.
Yeah.
So I knew I can at least run in a circle.
Yeah.
And I am competitive, but I'm not the most athletic person in the world. So
Yeah.
tried out for track and field at Munford Middle, and I don't think there's a year of my life that I haven't ran since then.
Yeah.
And so I just loved it. I loved the race concept of it, even though I really wasn't that great, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it was just fun. It was something my sisters could do together,
Yeah.
that we were all decent at. And so,
Okay.
yeah, that's
All
how
right.
I got started.
So 7th grade Hope fell in love with running.
Yes. And I
And-
think you remember those shoes that were like, they had shocks on them?
The Nike Shocks.
That's what they were called?
Yeah, that's what they were called.
Those were my, like, running shoes.
Let's go.
In the
You know how many
7th
ankles
grade.
those things have blown out?
And I had, like, the worst shin splints
Yeah.
in middle school, and I think I know why.
Nike Shocks.
They were horrible.
Unsponsored. We're not
Heavy. They
sponsored.
were the heaviest shoe ever.
Yeah.
But anyway,
For sure. I had friends that tried to hoop in them in Nike Shocks, and I was like, guys, that's a terrible idea. Those
they
are
were
just
like,
for...
it's like running on heels.
Yeah.
Like, for real.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That's awesome. Well, what's the farthest distance you've ever ran?
I don't think I've gone past the 5K.
Okay.
Really. Like, what is that? 3 miles and 11
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, 3.1.
Yeah. I would say
and
that's the
some
longest.
numbers. Okay.
Maybe 4.
Yeah. I feel like you've ran 4.
You think so?
Yeah. for
Because
sure.
I run a fast pace 5K.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, I say it's fast, but
Yeah.
it's really not. But I would say no more than 4, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So obviously I shared this. My running journey began because of you. I was
Yeah.
always like, I'm not a runner. I'm
know.
an athlete, and
Yeah.
I play football. I run for like 20 seconds and then get in a huddle and breathe. And basketball, 90 feet. And so you really got me into running. You didn't let me have an option, honestly.
It
You're
took
like,
10 years.
It did take 10 years
To get you there.
That's true. It's been a long journey. You remember the first time, like I was like laid out in the driveway with my knees wrapped.
You wrapped your knees.
Yeah.
And like, what was that?
It was like Ace bandages or something. It wasn't even like good knee support. I was
Yeah,
just like,
you
my
looked
knees,
pitiful.
my knees hurt.
You had like long basketball shorts on.
Uh-huh.
And I said, my God, you were miserable. But I like made you do it. I was like,
Yeah.
let's go. You're probably
Keep
like,
going.
what am I marrying?
You were like, sprint up this hill. I was like, no.
And I was like, didn't I like help you wrap your knees?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. It was bad. It was bad. We've come a long way though. And
I don't even think that did anything for you.
It didn't. That's why I said Ace bandages. They weren't even like knee support, but it made my brain think it.
Poor soul.
But and for the first time in 10 years, I actually raced. We didn't race, but I ran the other day and actually outpaced you.
You smoked me.
And that was the first time in 10 years.
I don't know if I liked that.
1 out of 100 times. Well, the next time we ran, you didn't let me.
I will say the scariest thing is hearing you come up from behind me. Because you make a lot of noise.
I do.
And I'm in the park. I'm like, yeah, I'm totally smoking him. And you hear boom, boom, boom. I'm like, oh my God,
And then you
what
turn
machine
around.
is coming my way? And it's you.
I'm definitely not
There's
light on
not
my
somebody you
feet.
want to see come after you at all.
That's why all the people, when I come running by them, they're all like, they all like
wind
jump.
was blowing. I'm pretty sure my hair went with you. Like, I'm
It's
proud
a
of you, though.
struggle.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks, I appreciate
I don't.
that.
know if I like that you can outrun me now.
Yeah.
But you're a beast.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been fun. Well, let me two more things,
Okay.
just real quick, and then we'll kind of get into
Okay.
a little bit deeper talk. But what's one piece of advice that you would give a new runner? Like if somebody's like, I want to run, or running's not for me, what would you say to somebody like that?
I do hear a lot of people say running is not for them. I don't know. I'm sure there's different reasons why people say that. I think a lot of people just think they can't do it.
Yeah.
They don't even want to get started because they're comparing themselves to somebody who's doing it really well.
Right.
I think if you're going to get into running, you have to find your why.
Yeah.
It's not good enough to just run just to say you did it. I think there has to be a why behind it because it is hard. Running is hard. It's hard on the body, especially the older you get. I started young, so it kind of became a hobby for me, and then my body kind of resisted it the older I got. But if you don't have a strong why behind it, I really don't see you succeeding in running, honestly.
Right.
Because it's not, I wouldn't say it's the funnest thing in the world. There's a lot of work that goes into running. There's a lot of pain that goes into it. It hurts, by the time you get to the end. There has to be a strong why, but if you can focus on that. I also think some people just don't want to approach it because they know it takes work.
Yeah.
And to that, I would say, maybe you need to find some grit within you and remove those excuses of why you can't do something because it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Because running is so good for you.
Yeah.
Spirit, mind, body. I believe that's why the Lord asked you to run.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that's tied into running.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Yeah. And if you can just get a why and get over those first couple runs, it really does become something that you yearn for.
Yeah.
I've found that.
And you preached this week on running at your own pace and not comparing yourself. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute, but you have to just take the first step, and yourself is your competition.
Absolutely.
You can't compete against somebody who's been running for 5 years.
Right.
It's just not going to be good for you.
Right.
If you think you're going to get out there and smoke somebody who's been running for 5 years.
Yeah.
But get out there and do it.
Right.
And have a good attitude about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And enjoy it. Well, you mentioned the sermon, and we really kind of leaned into seasons this past message that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So, first and foremost, what's your favorite season to run? Because I've learned running outside is way better than running on a treadmill.
Yeah.
Scenery changes, all the smells, the seasons, all the stuff. But what is Pastor Hope's favorite season to run in?
Well, when I was running a lot more, I actually really enjoyed running in the wintertime, like 20-degree weather.
Yeah.
Because it's so cold that it numbs your body.
Right.
And then you can't feel the pain. I'm not even kidding.
I literally just told somebody that this past week.
You're so cold, you can't even feel anything.
Right.
And I kind of like it. But, yeah, I don't enjoy being hot, so summer's at the bottom.
Yeah.
Summer's I don't even think,
miserable.
It's horrible.
Can we pause running in the summer?
Just go to the gym.
Right.
But then you have to do on this stupid treadmill, which is
not go nowhere.
Horrible.
Yeah.
But I'd say wintertime.
Okay.
For sure.
All right. Well, as we're talking about seasons, obviously seasons change and move and go. And we have seasons in our lives. That's kind of what we've been talking about as runners are going to run. And in life, in the natural, there's a lot of times where there's indicators that seasons are changing. If it's fall, leaves are turning. If it's spring, things are blooming. If it's summer, things are getting hot. There's just indicators in our life to know when seasons are changing. What are some indicators in your life personally that you have found that have identified to you that seasons were changing spiritually?
I would say a big indicator is my surroundings, just like a season in the natural term. You look at the leaves and you look at your surroundings and it's changing. That indicates to you a season is shifted.
Yeah.
And one way that you can tell that you're about to walk into a new season is, are you the biggest person in the room? Are you surrounding yourself with small-minded people? There's a season coming. Yeah. The leaves are changing. Yeah. And it's time to shift yourself into a new season where you're surrounding yourself with a new environment.
Yeah.
I believe that seasons come and go two different ways. I think the Lord shifts your seasons, and I think sometimes it's a decision you have to make.
Yeah, that's good.
To shift your seasons and what you're in, and you shift your environment, and you shift what you see around you. One thing that on the spiritual side of it with the Lord, your toleration for things change.
Yeah.
And what was okay for you last season is not enough for you in the new season.
Yeah.
And there's so many examples of that.
Right.
Like on the positive side of it, what got you through the summer in the Word, your prayer time, your time with the Lord, is not enough to sustain you in the winter.
Right.
And I need more to get through that. And like, that's a season shift. But also too, like on the negative side, well, I wouldn't say the negative side necessarily, but what you tolerated, what you compromise, it grieves your spirit.
Yeah,
and you're walking into a new season where you're more mighty than you used to be.
Yeah.
You're shifting.
Right.
There's a shift that happens inside of you, and things don't catch you off guard like they used to.
Yeah.
You don't unravel. You're not an emotional roller coaster like you used to. Like you're shifting into a new season. I also see that as a new level as well. Like sure. I see that as a new level. But yeah, those are just a few. There's so many things I think.
Yeah, and I think I like that you mentioned levels, because I think a lot of times we don't really identify. We identify. This is something my youth pastor used to teach us all the time. That if you're moving up levels, when you're at the top of one level, the next level you're at the bottom of that level.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we try to identify that as a bad season.
Yeah.
We're just
but it's not.
But it's not.
You're
it's
just
a
starting.
new level.
I love that. And one thing I heard this summer was to get to the next level, you have to surrender the level that you're on.
Yeah, that's good.
And you do start at the bottom of the next one.
Yeah.
I really like that. And I think, too, we think seasons are like these ups and downs in our life with the Lord, but they don't have to be like that. They don't have to be a yo-yo roller coaster of this is a bad season, this is a good season. I believe seasons it's like glory to glory.
No, absolutely.
They're levels.
Yeah.
And I love that. Starting at the bottom, but it's because you've risen to another level.
Yeah. And one thing, this was something that I gotten during running, and I think I mentioned it on a Sunday morning. We're running. I was running at a state park, and leaves were falling. Mm-hmm. And we can look at that season and go, man, things are dying. Yeah. This is a season of death. But the Holy Spirit was like, it is a season of death, but it's so that new things can grow.
Right. It's a purge.
So it's a purge. So it's a good season
it's a good
of
season.
death. It's just not it's not the season for growth. It's just purging things. Yeah. So it doesn't make it a valley. Yeah. It can still be a mountaintop.
Yeah. And if you're spiritually in tune with the Lord, your perspective of that will be that.
Yeah.
But if you see things dying, you start holding on to things and trying to save it. And I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but it's all about how mature you are in the Lord to recognize that it's actually you're going up when things are dying. Yeah. Sometimes. Right. It could be you.
It could be you.
Go to counseling and figure that out.
I know. I love that. I got in my mind when you're trying to gather things. You remember that commercial where the dude was like, "Nuh-uh, not yet," and he's like stapling leaves back on the tree?
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh my gosh, they're falling, and he's like collecting them. Like, no, it's not time yet. You know,
I can't do that.
Yeah, but that's great.
I hadn't seen that.
Okay, so was there anything particular? So you said that. If you're not, spiritual, in tune with the Lord, in tune with the Spirit, you can misidentify things, or you cannot realize it's you, or different things like that. What were some things in your life that helped you get to those places that you were able to start identifying them correctly?
So many. What are some things that helped me identify correctly what was happening?
How did you grow in it?
Well, you have elders in your life that help you see those things. Yeah. I would say that's one thing. Your relationship with the Lord and Him speaking to you and giving you wisdom, Holy Spirit guiding you in that, because it's all about your perspective. And if you submit yourself to the Lord and say, God, give me your eyes. Yeah. Give me your will, you will start seeing those things for what it is. Yeah. And you'll stop seeing it through your fleshly eyes. Yeah. The fruit of the Spirit, one of them is patience. Yeah. One of them is self-control. And when you're leaning into the Lord, you can't help but start to see it his way.
Right.
If you really have the Lord in you, if you really are leaning on him, those things are getting produced out of you.
Yeah.
And you're just, it's a natural thing.
Yeah.
You know, every time I'm teaching, preaching, or whatever, it always goes back to read your Bible.
Right.
Spend time with the Lord.
Yeah.
Like, there is no secret sauce.
Right.
It's the good old fashioned read your word, be acquainted with the Lord, and you will start seeing it his way, because you'll start letting go of your expectations on things.
Right.
You'll start letting go of your will and how you want it to look. Control.
Yeah.
You know, we want to control everything.
Yeah.
And when you just surrender, go, God, I don't want to control this anymore, you will start recognizing and identifying seasons for what they are.
Yeah.
You know, and you won't be so miserable.
Right. Right.
You could be even a hard leaves could be dying, but you're not miserable.
Right. Right.
Because you see it for what it is.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Speaking of miserable, running's miserable. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's not.
It's not. It's wonderful. But speaking of miserable, we talked about particularly in week 2 of this message series, we talked about running in someone else's fit. And I think sometimes running in someone else's fit might not only be trying to run in someone else's anointing and do what they're trying to do, but I also think it could be fear of man. That could be something that we put on because we're running according to someone else's opinion or thoughts about us.
Yeah.
Talk about, have you had a moment in your life or a season in your life where you were trying to run in your own life wearing other people's opinions, or you had fear of man on you?
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
So the way that fear of man affected me in years past was less about competing, less about trying to be like somebody else, and it was more about me coming into all that I am and people not liking it, and people being intimidated by it or being offended by it, or me having to apologize for who I am. Yeah. That was a fear of man that I wrestled with for years. Good. And so, what was your question?
What in those seasons, when you ran in fear of man, like, just kind of talk through that. How did you identify it? How did you come out of it?
Yeah. It was difficult, especially when I was younger, and I feel like the more the Lord elevated me, the more people questioned it and was just like, why her? Why does she get this favor? And it would make me withdraw. Yeah. Because I'm like, well, I don't want to offend people. Like, let me just not be all, Yeah. And eventually you get to this place, again, you have elders in your life that go, no, don't apologize for who you are. Like, be you. But also, when you experience the love of God, when you experience redemption the way that I did, when you experience salvation and just encounter the Lord in such a way, you just don't care what people think about you. Right. And you just live boldly, because if you could just see what he did for me, you would understand why I'm so passionate and bold to live this way for the Lord. Yeah. And that was more in my younger years. Yeah. I think now fear of man was more of just like disappointing people, their opinions of me in other light, and you have to come to this place where you could literally wake up and you're going to offend people. Yeah, for sure. So why are you doing it for them? Right. Do it for the Lord. Yeah. Be obedient. Yeah. And if you're doing it to be liked by everybody, you're going to die trying. Right. Right. So, and if you're, I learned that the hard way, I think. Yeah. And I think too, kind of from our journey, I joked about it where in the last episode of this podcast, where the guy came out and had the dog and was like, if she wasn't running with you, she'd be running faster. Yeah. I think a lot of times too, maybe, I even made the statement in the message when I preached that point of the Lord's like, there's some people you need to let go of so you can run faster. Mm-hmm. But also, I think if we don't run we don't want to allow ourselves to run at our full pace because we're afraid of what people might say or think about us, and that we have to apologize for it. And if that's the case, we're going to stay in the back of the pack, or we're going to not fully. Because your pace could offend somebody. Right. It's like, you're running too fast. Right. You need to come back here with us. Right.
And they're only doing that to make themselves feel better about their pace.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times we in the church want to be apologetic for the pace that we're trying to keep spiritually or whatever it may be. But it's like, no, set yourself free of that. Yeah. And don't apologize for it and run after the Lord.
For sure.
That's a great insight on it. I really like the thought process there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, last thought here. We read Ecclesiastes 3:1-8 to kind of wrap up the message. I just feel like, in that particular passage, it says, for everything there is a season. Everything has a purpose. There's a season to, birth and death and plant and harvest and all these different ones. Kind of talking about as we were preparing for this, was there a moment in your life that we could talk about that, Sunday I'd mentioned there's some people that are trying to kill or heal some things that God's trying to kill.
Yeah.
They got it backwards because they haven't identified it correctly. So what is, let's talk about it for a minute. What's something that you've tried to heal that God was trying to kill in your life?
Yeah. So I was in a long-term relationship out of high school.
Yeah.
And we were together for almost 4 years and had a child. It was Kylan's dad.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I thought it was supposed to work out because we had a child together. We were together for so long. And within that relationship, I gave my life back to the Lord and I started going back to church.
Yeah.
But he was not ready for that.
Yeah.
And I thought it was my duty to get him saved and get us on the same page because I thought, this is the guy. Like, we have to be equally yoked and we both need to do this together. If we're going to get married, like, we got to do this. And so I found myself, like, I can remember one Sunday I, pushed him to the front to get saved. I was like, that's you.
That's you.
At this church, by the way. But yeah, so I tried to make it work. I tried to literally force it to work.
Yeah.
I was like, this has to work.
Right.
And it was towards the end of that relationship that I joined the worship team, got back into serving at the church, and I knew the Lord was requiring me to kind of surrender my life of everything. And some things came to light, and that relationship ended through that. And it was hard because it's an expectation that you thought was going to happen, and you tried to heal it. But God's like, no, that's not even for you, Hope.
Right.
Like I have something better for you.
Right.
And you have to be willing to trust the Lord even when it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Even when it's like life shattering, you think it is in the moment.
Yeah.
But I think that's so prevalent for so many people who are dating.
Yeah.
Who think if I could just get them saved, then this will work out.
Yeah.
And the Lord's saying, I have someone reserved for you that is beyond what you can even imagine.
Yeah.
The person that you're with is not it.
Yeah.
And we want to hold on to it. And I've seen so many people, and I know you have too, like decide to climb back down the mountain of God for someone who was willing to camp out at the bottom.
Yeah.
And it could be destiny shattering.
Right. Yeah.
If you do that. So I would say that was a big one for me.
I think too, we always, it goes back to the identifying seasons and knowing that it doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be, when we hear kill, God's trying to kill some things. It's more of he's trying to purge and trying to cut out some things, because those things that we're allowing to live in our lives, whether it's a relationship, whether it's emotions, whether it's unforgiveness, whether it's a situation, he's trying to kill those things so they no longer have effect in our lives.
Yes, and I can remember thinking someone was saying the enemy's attacking you with the relationship falling apart, and I thought, you have to identify, is it the enemy or is God trying to purge this?
Right, absolutely.
And you have to have that spiritual maturity to know between the two.
Yes.
Sometimes it's not an attack of the enemy.
Right.
It's the Lord saying, let go.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that comes down to that surrender. Like, okay,
Absolutely.
Lord, your ways are better. Your thoughts are higher.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to have to surrender to you and trust you in this.
Yeah.
And not.
Let him go. Let him go.
Oh man,
That's what you need for
hilarious.
Christmas.
That's what you need.
Go
for
ahead,
Christmas.
let that boy go. Go ahead, let that boy go.
Yeah.
But anyway,
That's hilarious.
it's so true.
It
That
is
ain't the
true.
devil.
That ain't
That's the Lord.
That's
He
the
said,
Lord.
"Let him go. I'm trying to purge this man."
and female for you fellas
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, let her go.
And female, let her go. I think we all have a let her go or let him go story.
We all do.
We all do.
We all do. Them 20-year-old years are rough.
Yeah.
ain't they? Just
Praise
trying
God
to
we're out
figure
of
it
them. Thank the Lord.
If you're 16 listening to this,
Right.
you don't need a boyfriend or a
Yeah,
girlfriend.
you don't need them.
You
don't
ain't
need
gonna marry them.
Yeah. If you're watching it with them, just look at them slowly and be
That's
like,
not your
"Well,
season. Your season is something else.
It's something else." But
Anyway.
well, Pastor Hope, thanks for the laughs and the wisdom all in one. Thanks for coming and being a part of the podcast.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I don't know that you had a choice, but
I was gonna say I don't think I had a choice, but thanks for having me, babe.
Yeah, you
Love
did great. Love you too. And
Bye.
bye.